reporter for the Oakland Tribune Bay Area News Group and your moderator for tonight's program. Please now make sure that all cell phones, PDAs, and other noise-making devices are turned off. We will get underway in just a moment, but first I'd like to tell you about some upcoming programs. Next Monday, June 21st, the club welcomes Congressman Joe Sestak, who, despite efforts by the White House and his own party, defeated incumbent Arlen Specter in the race for the Democratic Senate nomination in Pennsylvania. This will be a noon program at the club in San Francisco and is free for members of the club. In August, the club in Lafayette will host New York Times best-selling author Mary Roach. Ms. Roach has taken us into the world of cadavers, investigated the afterlife, and examined the anatomy, physiology, and psychology behind sex. Now Roach delves into the surreal and weird world of space. For example, what happens when you've been in space for a year? And is it possible for a human body to survive a bailout at 17,000 miles an hour? From the Space Shuttle training toilet to NASA's crash simulation tests, Roach explores the strange universe. This program will take place at the Lafayette Library's Community Hall on August 19th. For information on what's coming up in Lafayette in July, please sign up to receive the Commonwealth Club in Lafayette newsletter, which is the best way to stay informed of all club events in Lafayette. You can also visit the club's website at commonwealthclub.org to see the complete calendar of club events around the Bay Area. It is my pleasure to extend a special welcome to any new Commonwealth Club members who are here. If you're not yet a member, today is a great time to join. Members enjoy many benefits, including free attendance at events held at club headquarters on Mondays and Fridays, a subscription to the Commonwealth magazine, and a worldwide travel program. If you have any questions, staff will be on hand after this program to answer them. Now, on to the program. Tonight's program is presented in partnership with the Lafayette Library and Learning Center's Glen Seaboard Learning Consortium. You'll find question cards on your seats. Please write down any questions you have for our panel, and the cards will be collected during the program. I will now pause for one moment and then begin the program for our radio, television, and internet audiences. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Commonwealth Club of California. Tonight's program is presented in partnership with the Lafayette Library and Learning Center's Glen Seaboard Learning Consortium. You can find the club on the internet at commonwealthclub.org. I'm Josh Richmond, Politics and Legal Affairs reporter for the Oakland Tribune and Bay Area News Group, and your moderator for tonight's program. Tonight's program will focus on the issue of guns in public, particularly related to so-called open carry laws in numerous communities in California as well as across the country. The subject of gun ownership in America has never been more hotly debated than it is today. In 2008, the Supreme Court ruled against a sweeping ban on handguns in Washington, D.C., and affirmed an individual's right to self-defense and gun ownership. Numerous analysts believe that this year, the High Court might be poised to overturn Chicago's strictest in the nation handgun ban. In a majority of states, law-abiding citizens may already openly carry a loaded handgun with no license or permit required. In much of California, it is legal to openly carry firearms as long as they are unloaded and visible. Here in the Bay Area, in such suburban communities as Walnut Creek and Antioch, open carry groups have been congregating at different locations to demonstrate their right to carry unloaded, unconcealed firearms in public. Opponents have come out en masse to protest. There is now a proposed bill in California that would make it a misdemeanor to openly carry an unloaded handgun in specified public areas. This bill has just recently been approved by the California Assembly and will now make its way to the California Senate. As California and the nation struggle with what's right constitutionally and morally, today's program will delve into these issues. Should people be allowed to carry guns in public places? Does it matter if they're loaded or unloaded? Is this a justifiable assertion of Second Amendment rights or a potential disaster waiting to happen? Should open carry be the law of the land? Our panelists are Chang, Press Secretary for the Responsible Citizens of California, a nonprofit organization that promotes, educates, and advocates for the right to carry, which includes both open carry and shall-issue concealed carry. Karen Arnson, is the California Chapter Services Coordinator for the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. Karen has been active in the gun violence prevention movement for over a decade. A mother of 3 daughters, she helped organize the Contra Costa Million Mom March chapter, now the Contra Costa Brady Campaign chapter, where she served as chapter co-president. She went to work for the Brady Campaign in 2007 after retiring from a 28-year career in public affairs with the U.S. Navy and a Bay Area water district. Adnan Shahab is the Republican nominee for State Assembly in the 20th Assembly District, an open carry advocate, and an active member of the Bay Area's open carry movement. He is a resident of California his entire life. Raised in Fremont, he was valedictorian at Washington High School in 1996. He then went on to UC Berkeley, where he graduated at the top of his undergraduate class at the Haas School of Business. Adnan is working to educate the public and law enforcement about the laws pertaining to open carry. He wants law-abiding citizens to be aware of their right to carry to protect themselves and to be able to retain the right to decide for themselves whether they want to carry a firearm for personal protection. And Lori Saldana, California Assembly member and author of Assembly Bill 1934, which would make it a misdemeanor to openly carry an unloaded handgun in specified public areas. Assemblymember Saldana is the representative for the 76th District in San Diego. She is now in her 3rd term in the California legislature and serves as Speaker Pro Tem in the State Assembly. Please welcome our panelists. So Assemblywoman, perhaps we could start with you. If you could give us a quick overview of why you felt AB 1934 was necessary and the current status of the bill.
All right. Well, thank you, Josh, and thank you everyone who is here this evening. I think it reflects the importance of the discussion we are going to have. I introduced the bill after hearing complaints from law enforcement and citizens in my district in San Diego about people who were openly carrying guns on a boardwalk along the beach in the summertime when many families were there for recreation. And what was happening is people were concerned to see people openly carrying guns. They had no way of knowing that they were using them they had no way of knowing that they were loaded, unloaded, and police would be called. And the police would have to contact the person carrying the gun, inspect it, verify that it wasn't loaded, and it turns out they cannot ask for identification, they cannot verify the person is the legal registered owner of a gun, they cannot inspect the serial number, determine that it hasn't been used in a crime. And so a lot of questions arose about what the purpose was for people to be openly carrying a gun in a recreation area. And I actually had law enforcement tell me that they were devoting a considerable amount of time keeping an eye on the open carry people because once word got out with certain gangs in San Diego that they did not have loaded guns, they themselves became shadowed by people who wanted to take their guns away. And the police were literally following people down the boardwalk, keeping an eye on them to make sure they did not become victims of crime themselves. So in a time when we are laying off police officers, cutting back on public services, and talking to law enforcement around the state, I realized that this is really not a time, and we've seen an increase in the last few years of people openly carrying guns. I really believe, and law enforcement around the state believes, that this is creating an increasing cost and an increasing hazard for public safety in California. That's why I've introduced the bill.
And the current status of the bill?
It is going to the Senate Public Safety Committee next week.
Mr. Shahab, why don't you explain briefly why it is that you believe that the rationale for this bill is unfounded?
Well, the rationale behind the bill is that open carries are somehow posing some sort of danger to society, that they're scaring people or they're taking up resources. With regards to the scaring people issue, there have been numerous court cases that say that the mere fear is not enough to take away a person's rights. Going back to the case 1960s, during the Civil Rights Act of 1964, one of the arguments that people made was they didn't want to hire black people because they claimed that black people scare customers. And we know that's absolutely ridiculous. So to say that people should be able to carry firearms because people are irrationally afraid of them, that's not the proper way to do things. The proper response would be to educate people that firearms are simply a tool, and they don't attack people. We need to teach people to act responsibly. And with regards to the issue of taking up law enforcement, this might have been the situation last summer, but I know up here in the Bay Area over the last 6 months, we've done an excellent job